My name is Ken Nsimbi, and I am the lead for the SSPP Stopping School to Prison Pipeline. Here shortly, we're going to start the slideshow, and we'll give some instructions just going forward. I'm so excited to have you guys. Thank you for taking your Thursday evening and joining us as we do this info session. We have a spot allotted at the end for questions, and based on last time's flow of the meeting, we had plenty of time. In fact, folks left early, but we had plenty of time for questions to be asked. So please, if those come up for you, please write it down either in the chat, because Mahogany is tracking that, or just on your piece of paper, and then we will touch on each and every one's questions. And that's going to be between Zach, myself, Lisa, Mahogany, Leah is the team. And then if there's any questions to do with Zoom grants, we have our expert Joanna on there, and then we have some TAs, technical assistants, who might be I'm trying to figure out who's who technical assistant wise, that'll be able to share when the slide comes. Cool, let's get started. Lisa, are we good?
Yeah, did you want the King County staff to introduce themselves? Or?
Yes, absolutely, thank you. Let me actually pass it on to you, Lisa. So King County staff, please introduce yourself. Just give a little 30-second spiel about what team you're part of, and then we're going to hit the slide. Thank you, Lisa. Lisa, take it on.
Hi, I'm Lisa Ingraham. I'm the program manager for Best Starts for Kids for Transitions to Adulthood, and also I work on the Stopping the School to Prison pipeline. And that's it. I'll pass it to Mahogany.
Hello, everyone. I am Mahogany Purpose. I'm a contract monitor with Stopping the School to Prison Pipeline. Leah?
Good evening. I'm Leah Grudensky, she, her pronouns. I'm on the Best Starts for Kids evaluation team supporting this strategy. And Zach, you're next.
Can folks hear me okay? Hey, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Zach Davis, and I have the privilege of working alongside the rest of these great folks on this team as part of Stopping the School to Prison Pipeline. I serve as a policy advisor, and I will hand it to Joanna.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Joanna Armstrong. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a contracting and procurement specialist in DCHS, so I'm here to support the SSPP team. So Ken, have you gone?
I have, Joanna, but thank you. Back to me, because we're about to get this started. So thank you. Welcome for those who are just joining us. The King County folks just gave some introductions, and we're about to start our slideshow. So as you see on here, it says, please type in your chat, name, organization, and what do you hope to share from this session? Just some brief get to know you as we go. So please just type into the chat, and then we'll keep it moving for time's sake. Next slide, please. So this is our agenda for this evening: strategy overview, RFP overview, a quick RFP timeline, Q&A. You will get to hear from Johanna, who's going to speak on the Zoom grants. You'll also get to hear from Leah, who's going to touch on evaluation. And then Zach and I will be going back and forth. Thank you, Leah, Lisa. Okay, as the RFP starts, for those who are going to be applying, we tried to make this slideshow in sync with how the RFP flows. So it starts off with what our mission is, and that's Best Starts for Kids is King County's community-driven initiative to support every baby born and child raised in King County to be happy, healthy, safe, and thriving. And thank you, folks. I see Lavelle, I see Lacey, I see you guys as you continue to put your names in the chat. That's excellent. So these are some of the results that we have, and this has been going since 2016. The initiative has pursued the three overarching results, which is babies born healthy, young people have equitable opportunities, and then communities offer safe and welcoming environments. How do we do it? So 4 brackets that we put them in. That's promotion, prevention, early intervention, policy, and systems. Under the promotion one, it begins before birth and throughout life, increasing positive resources, relationships, opportunities, and environments available. Under the prevention part, preventing things like stress, unsafe environments, or insufficient opportunities for communities. And then we intervene early through supporting children and young people who need more resources, and then partnering with decision makers so that all communities can thrive and prosper. Next slide, please. So what is the stopping the school to prison pipeline strategy area? Some of you may ask. We break it down in 3 ways, and this is through partnership, success pathways, and then most importantly, building relationships. So we partner with a community-based organizations such as yourselves on here, and main ages are between 12 to 24 and their families. And these are young people most likely to be pushed into the criminal legal system, some already involved in it. And then with success pathways, we intentionally dismantle and replace the school to prison pipeline with school to life success pathways, including systems, policies, and practices that help all young people and their families, especially Black and Indigenous youth, help them embrace their worth, live up to their potential, and then pursue any aspirations with full support from communities that are right here in this room. And then SSP for the last one is funded programming, builds relationships, provides guidance, and connects young people to opportunities. And then that advanced community defined economic and also educational success for young people and their families. That's the main brackets we're really trying to focus on in this RFP. Next one, please. I've already started it off by talking a lot. I appreciate you guys' patience on that. This slide, I'm not going to be talking much. I'm going to let you soak it in by reading these guidelines and then just picking a few that might resonate with you. So I'm going to give us a couple minutes and then I'll open it up for the floor, just popcorn style, to share on which one resonates with you. So the couple minutes starts now. If a few people can put up some thumbs up or like some reactions, I'll know to start popcorning. Thank you, Lavelle. Appreciate that. Once I get a few more, we'll get rolling on. Oh, I see Providence. Thank you. Amir, thank you. Lacey, all right, that's a few right there. So the people who gave me the thumbs up have to share. No, I'm kidding. I'm not gonna do that. I'm totally joking. It's gonna be popcorn style as promised. So please let me know. Just feel free to Carlicia, thank you. Feel free to share just 1 or 2 that resonate with you. We'll take a few folks here. David, welcome to the crew. Good to see you, and good to see you on that side as well. Anyone wants to share?
I'll jump in if I can. Hey, this is Amir. I really right away the first one jumped out at me right away, which is of course prioritize and champion the voices of community most affected by racism and poverty. So my organization is a Black-led and serving nonprofit, and like if you're not doing that from the ground up, like really, what is the supremacy of the voice of the people you serve on the ground? And I think that as a guiding principle just warmed my heart, because that is so powerful. If we're listening to the people on the ground, if we are servants to the people on the ground, then consistently serving and listening, and I think that we'll be in a much better position to navigate whatever comes. Thank you.
Man, spot on, Amir. Thank you for sharing that. Could we have a few more? That was great.
Yeah, I'll jump in there. This is LaBelle Walton. Thank you for having me. Can you hear me?
Absolutely. Welcome.
All right, wonderful. The two that stood out most to me is something that really works. Currently, I work within and have been for the past 5+ years, is increase young people's positive cultural identity, self-worth, and leadership skills. And then the other one is develop anti-racist practices, leadership, and systems. I currently work with Kingmakers, which is out of the Department of African American Male Achievement with Seattle Public Schools, and we've been doing that for the past 5 years. And then my company actually, for the last year, I've been working specifically with Black male students, now looking to integrate Black male and female students for some of the work that we're doing. So those two really stand out for me.
Thank you, LaBelle. I appreciate you sharing that perspective. One more, please, before we move on.
Hi, this is Carlicia with Phenomenal She. And what I'm just going to talk about one that stood out for me, and it's invest in culturally reflective and responsive support. I think that's very important for our youth. Phenomenal She, we service young women of color, and particularly those that are in like South King County school districts, and they don't have representation. And I think it's important that when they come to us for support, that it's culturally reflective, because I just feel like that's a way to support them and seeing positive growth. And especially like when you're dealing with the juvenile justice system, having someone that can relate generally will motivate them in the opposite way. So yeah, so that one stood out for me.
Thank you, Carlicia. And I've seen your agency firsthand, like put that in practice from the work that you guys do. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
All right, you guys know the next gentleman who's coming on stage. He does not need an introduction, not from me. I do want his shirt though. Zach Davis, without further ado.
That was an epic introduction. Thanks, Ken. Can folks hear me okay? I'm on a laptop, so I'm working off of 2 screens. If somebody could just give me an amen, I'd appreciate it.
Amen.
All right, thank you so much. Was that Amir?
Yes, sir.
Hey, it's good to hear your voice. Yeah, so again, Zach, serve as a policy advisor for Stopping the School to Prison Pipeline. And for this next portion, we felt it important to share with people the longer term goals for Stopping the School to Prison Pipeline to get a better sense as to how does this particular RFP fit into what it is that we strive to accomplish in a long term. So you'll see that there's 2 rows of boxes here. Each of those goals, each of those represents a goal, and the top row are goals more particularly associated with programs and practices. And then the bottom row is more so associated with system structures and policies. And so if you just take a minute and take a look at these, you'll see the first one is eliminate the practice of putting young people in confinement. Second one is replace the school to prison pipeline with school to life success pathways. Third one, support the healing of traumatic wounds experienced by young people of color, their families, and community providers. And then when you look at the bottom row here, in no particular order, align county policies and practices with community efforts and needs, support partners by enhancing capacity building as they help to create sustainable school to life success pathways. So basically, how are we supporting folks who are doing the work, such as yourselves? And then the third one is to support the building of a community-led network within the King County region that protects and supports school to life success pathways for young people and their families. So that's about how we build the type of network, a system, so that no matter where a youth is, wherever a young person is in the county, they're getting support. Next slide, please. While I believe that this particular RFP is reflective of all three of the strategies that are mentioned in the Best Starts for Kids implementation plan, BSK 2.0 implementation plan, there is one that I would say is the primary one, meaning that we hope that the desire is for this to be reflective, even if a person is more so focused on one of the other strategies, and that's okay too, but there's something particularly noteworthy about this strategy and was the inspiration for this RFP. But that being said, don't feel pressure if, for instance, you're more so focused on the theft-free and mall safety, or you're asking, I can get into unpacking how this connects to the third strategy, but I wanted folks to just get a sense as to what is it that we're trying to accomplish here. And you'll see with this particular strategy, and again, you can find these strategies within the BSK 2.0 implementation plan. Employment and economic development provides intentional guidance and connection to relevant resources related primarily to employment and education opportunities, such as paid skills, job training, and shadowing, paid internships, civic and business leadership development, career and land stewardship mentoring, and culturally reflective mental health and well-being supports. So that's the primary focus of this RFP. And I put an asterisk next to that, of course. But in terms of the scopes of work, there was three that were identified. There are three identified within this particular RFP. First is positive identity development, 2, economic strengthening and solvency, and then 3, theft-free and mall safety. So while this RFP is it has a particular focus on employment and economic development, you'll notice that when we talk about the scopes of work, it's a little bit more nuanced than that. You see that there's positive identity development, and then there's also theft-free and mall safety. And then people add some questions around, well, what about education, engagement, education, empowerment, and engagement? That is there too, in terms of understanding that there is a component to, there is an education component to, potential education component in terms of what type of approach you may have, or how this ties into the delivery. So overall, this is about building up the overall sense of individual and collective value and economic strength of our young people. And when I would encourage folks to pay careful attention and take the time to read the sections that talk about positive identity development, economic strengthening, insolvency, and then the theft-free and mall safety program. In terms of eligibility, and I know folks will probably have some questions around that, so I can provide some clarity, but in terms of eligibility, this request is open to nonprofit organizations, community-based organizations, tribes and tribal organizations, and public or government agencies serving communities in King County. Small nonprofits and community-based organizations are encouraged to submit proposals. Do want to provide some clarification. Nonprofit organizations must have 501c3 status or be fiscally sponsored by an organization with 501c3 status, including community-based or faith-based organizations. Applicants who are currently funded by other sources, including Best Starts for Kids, King County funding, for the same programming must clearly delineate the proposed programming. For example, if you are proposing an extension or expansion of pre-existing programming funded by other sources, you will need to clearly explain how the requested funding will enhance or increase the programming. In terms of the selection process and how that's tied into, that's something else that is noteworthy, is the selection process. Again, take a look at this in the RFP, but there's a section that unpacks this in greater detail. The gist of it is responsive proposals will be reviewed strictly in accordance with the requirements stated in this RFP. All proposals received by the state deadline will be reviewed by the RFP lead to ensure that the proposals contain the required information requested in the RFP. The RFP leads may, at their sole discretion, contact the applicant for clarification of any portion of the applicant's proposal, and proposals will be reviewed and evaluated by a review panel. The process for choosing projects will include evaluation of the narrative and accompanying documents and there is anticipated interviews as well. So we are expecting to be doing interviews. And now I will pass this on to Leah. Thank you.
Thanks, Zach. Once again, so my name is Leah Grudinsky, she, her pronouns, and I'm with DCHS on the Best Starts for Kids data and evaluation team. So I support everything to do with data reporting, measurement, things like that. And so for today, we'll be talking about data in two ways, both how you might want to use it in your application, as well as if you are awarded funds, how that would show up in your contract and in your grant. So starting off with just how data and evaluation are used in Best Starts for Kids, it's obviously a very important driver of letting us know how we're doing, whether we're held accountable to our mission, and then letting us know if anything needs to change. But of course, most importantly, highlighting the impact of all the work that our partners are doing. And this is all guided by 3 values of partnership, to help organizations share stories about their work, collaboration to use data as a tool for decision-making, and third, accessibility to help organizations build capacity and learn from the data. Next slide, thank you. So when you think about incorporating data in your proposal, really start by thinking, what's the story you want to tell reviewers? And that way reviewers can get a clear picture of what it is you plan to do in your organization, within your program specifically, and in the community at large. As Zach mentioned, and as you'll hear again, we recommend reading the RFP really carefully, since it'll tell you what reviewers are looking for and how proposals will be rated. So for example, you might see criteria related to understanding equity or disparity issues or filling service gaps. And those are all great places where you can use data to tell the story of what you plan to do and why there's a strong case for funding in this case. So you don't need to spend hours looking at statistics or anything like that. Data comes in all forms, including numbers, maps, stories, and even pictures. And I believe there are opportunities to upload pictures as well in your application. And then if you do need any support, we have some great technical assistance providers. We'll get to that a little bit later on, but they can be a really great thought partner in helping you tell the story of your work. Next slide, please. So on this slide, these are a couple of places that you might look for some of the data I just mentioned. The first is the Best Starts for Kids indicators, which look at population level data on a lot of topics related to early childhood development all the way to high school graduation rates. And then more in the broader King County space, we have communitiescount.com, which is a great place to look for general information about King County. And they have some really great written descriptions that might be helpful, especially if you consider yourself less of a numbers person and more of a words person. And then Community Health Indicators has some detailed information about a wide range of health, social, and economic indicators throughout many geographic and demographic communities in King County. But of course, a lot of the data may come from your own organization and your own experience, lived experience, and things like that. And so all of those are highly valued. Next slide, please. All right, so these are the things to know that if you are awarded funds, all organizations are expected to participate in performance measurement and reporting activities. And that includes quantitative and qualitative or narrative data to help share your program's impact, including the zip codes of all participants for receiving services, which helps us know where we're reaching people as well as where we're not reaching them. So proposals are not required to include evaluation plans. We will partner with you to create performance measures and data collection plans that make sense for your organization, including some tools that we can offer, like the Best Starts for Kids Youth Development Measurement Tool, which is a survey tool that we actually just finished this year in a partnership with a lot of BSK funded organizations, young people themselves, and the staff at those organizations, to come up with a survey that measures a lot of the things we already talked about, like positive identity development and social emotional learning. All right, next slide. And lastly, just getting into the details of what reporting would look like for this strategy. Performance measures are submitted on a quarterly basis, and that includes individual level data of all the participants in the program, their demographics, services, and outcomes information. On the slide, you'll see some examples of what the strategy currently reports on. So things related to goal achievement, being placed into employment, meeting a goal, and things like that. And then the other component is the narrative, which is yearly, and it's a summary of what changes you made to your program to better serve folks and any successes and challenges you've experienced. And I'll pass it back to you all. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Leah, and thank you, Zach, as well. That was well said. You guys hang in there. It's Thursday. Just a little breathe in and breathe out, and then we continue. We're almost getting to the part of questions. And I see some already being answered by Joanna. So thank you, Joanna, for tackling the one question that you had in there. All right. Funding specifics. Approximately $8.6 million is going to be awarded out for the next 2.5 years. And contracts are going to be beginning 2022 through December 2024. And so all this approximation is also available. 1,000 is going to be available for the remaining months, because you do realize we will be starting in July. So that's only going to give us 6 months. So for the 2022 year, it's going to be approximately 1,000. And then the rest, 7.6 million, is going to be available for 2023 to 2024. Next slide, please. Now, this slide has a lot of great information. All slides have, but then these are dates. This is where we're at, where we've been, and where we're going to. So RFP was issued on March 29th. You guys all got to see that. Information sessions. This is our final one, as you see, 4/7. We had one on Tuesday as well at around 1. And then the proposal, we're giving folks and agencies 6 good weeks to apply. So 5/9/2022, and that's when they are going in May. The proposals are going to be due for us to review, and then they're going to be reviewed and rated through May 14th to the 27th. Interviews with applicants, as Zach mentioned in the slide, that's going to be between May 31st through June 3rd of 2022. And then I have the privilege and also some of the tough conversations. I'm going to be talking to the folks who've been selected, and then also those who've not been selected. And then we'll be setting up any meetings that individuals may have. And then we have a question from Lavelle that we will take towards the end if it's noted. Notice of selected applicants and non-selected, that's early June. And then the program and contract start date is going to be July 1 through July 15th. And as promised, questions will be responded to at the end. Zach is going to dive briefly into TA, and then we're going to hear from Joanna.
Yeah, thanks so much. I do want to go back and clarify something, because I felt like I didn't do a very good job of articulating with regards to a question that was asked from the previous info session around whether there was going to be any future RFPs. I know at this point in time, and this is obviously up to Ken and the rest of the team, but there isn't any plans for a future RFP. And so then there was sort of this question around, well, what about the other strategies within the BSK 2.0 implementation plan? And in this particular RFP, there's 2 that are articulated. There's one having to do with, employment and economic development, but then there's another for theft, free, and mall safety. But then what about education, empowerment, engagement? And I think the important thing is to understand that education, empowerment, and engagement fits under and is as a potential service delivery with regards to the population and/or approach for this RFP. So if you're, for instance, some younger people may be too young to be employed, instead would benefit from a curriculum education setting that cultivates self-worth and aspirations and skills. Young adults may need educational support to further acquire life adaptive skills and or necessary credentials to be competitive in today's job market. Thus, education success serves the greater purpose of building up the overall sense of individual and collective value and economic strength of our young people. So that's something I wanted to go back and I think better articulate. And if folks have further questions around that, I'd be happy to touch on that. With regards to technical assistance, I'm going to read this off and then I'm going to invite the folks that do we have folks here who are representing a technical assistance provider?
That's actually a great question. I was wondering, could you give a thumbs up if you're TA?
We might have to take the slide down to see.
I'm looking at the folks right now.
Oh, you are? Okay, cool.
Yeah, but any thumbs up for TAs in the house, or you can write in the chat, any TAs here?
There was some at the last one, so that's where we're checking.
I don't think we have one, Zach, but this is pretty thorough, so.
Okay, all right. So I'll talk about this and then if folks want to jump in and add anything. So you can see from the bullets here, once an RFP opens, you can read the bios of the TA providers and choose one who seems like they'd be a good fit. Reach out early in the process, contact the provider, the technical assistance provider via phone or email, give the provider 24 hours to respond before reaching out to another provider. Contact the TA provider at least 3 days before the RFP closes. I've heard from some TA providers that's cutting it pretty dang close, and I think it's better to reach out to them now. And then if the fit does not seem right, feel free to let the provider know and reach out to a new one. So unfortunately, we don't have any technical assistance providers that we can introduce to you for this evening's discussion, but Ken, is it okay for me to just throw out a few pieces of advice? Is this a good time to do that? I can't see. Did you give me the thumbs up?
That makes sense. Why you can.
All I have is this laptop, man. It's giving me very little real estate to work.
You had me twisting my thumb this way to be like.
Yeah. Waving the screen. Okay, so.
Yeah, no, please go ahead. Sorry, I forgot you could not. You're using multiple.
Yeah. So I'm working off of different slides here. So these are some of the things that I observed, having gone through this process twice, debriefed with folks who were declined, as well as with those who were awarded, seeing some of the ups and downs, lessons learned, things that I felt like couldn't necessarily put in the RFP per se, just because that's more where we're just listing technical information. But I think it's things worth sharing in this space. And yeah, folks already know this conversation is being recorded, so folks are can certainly review this again, and we're going to share this out with the rest of the folks who are applying. But it's important to set up a relationship with a TA provider, even if you don't think you need one. There's a number of folks who thought, well, we already have a grant writer. We've already been through this before. Even if everything looks the same as what you have experienced in other spaces, even if you think you know all of it and you've had multiple conversations with me, still access the technical assistance. It's there. It doesn't cost you anything. And just because you're accessing it doesn't mean that you're depriving somebody else of that resource. I think that was something else that people had communicated before, like, well, we're more well-resourced organization. We didn't want to take that resource away from other nonprofits who may not have that. And I just want to reiterate to folks, you're not taking this resource from anyone. It's important for you to access it so that you have a fresh pair of eyes looking at your work, looking at your application, talking with you. These are folks who have access to us, who have had conversations with us. And I think it would be extremely beneficial because they're going to be able to see the things that you may not necessarily see. Another thing is to be very mindful of the relationships that you have established, if you are plan on subcontracting or partnering or referring to some sort of institution saying, hey, we work with these folks and we work with those folks, make sure that they're on the same page as you, including roles, responsibilities. Make sure that there is an agreement there to some degree in writing, something that articulates what that relationship is, because we've had a number of folks when we checked in kind of find out who they were claiming they were in relationship with or in partnership with, didn't even know that their name was being used in the application, and they were in some cases offended by it. So do not assume anything. Make sure that there is some very intentional conversations, and that you plan on partnering with somebody that you trust and that they trust you, because when there is money involved, people have a tendency to get kind of weird. And so I just want to underscore just how important it is to really be intentional about establishing those relationships. Um, I will not belabor that anymore. The next thing is, um, so applicants sometimes assume they need to present sort of institutional language or mute their cultural identity or gloss over their struggles to be more competitive. I've seen this happen where we saw things they didn't realize, applicants didn't realize we were seeing. And when they weren't naming those things, I think there was some concern around, are they aware of their own kind of struggles and challenges? So I think it's important. I know and I understand that sometimes organizations have to gloss over those things to make themselves more marketable in this industry, but we're asking for people to keep it real. And part of that means also naming, like, here's one of the ways in which we need to grow. And by being aware of that, I think it speaks to your integrity, not just your competency. So I highly recommend be transparent. Um, not, I mean, obviously be unapologetic about beautiful and wonderful and strong things that you bring to the table, and who you are and what you're about, your values, all of that. Absolutely. Don't mute that. Be straight up about it. Keep it real. And that includes also sharing the things that you're working on, the things that have been challenges, because then we can also see that as an opportunity to partner with you and help you in those areas. And you can also help us grow in that as well. And then it was also, some people felt like they had to, I guess, I'm going to be honest, they just said, we had to present white partners in order to make ourselves more palatable. And that's not the case here. If you want to have partnerships with whatever sort of institution or people, fine, make sure that those are authentic relationships, that you're not just presenting them in order to just give this appearance of being, whatever. We had some folks who were bringing white folks on because they thought that was what they needed to have credibility, and other folks who were bringing people of color on in order to appear like they were diverse. And so there was this whole poverty pimping thing that was happening. It's a small town. We're going to see right through that. It's best for people to just keep it real. That way, if you get it, you're doing what it is that you are about, and you feel a sense of integrity and pride around that. And you don't feel like you have to now all of a sudden maintain some sort of appearance. I also want to caution people to not make false assumptions about what the county is looking for. So if you feel like, well, they're only looking for Black organizations, well, if you make that assumption, then you've eliminated yourself. If you feel like, if you don't identify as a Black organization, that's not the case. What we're recognizing is that there are different needs in different areas of the community, and the important thing is to be clear about who you are, whom you're serving, and how you're connected to that community, and to really help us understand why it's important to be investing in the program that you're proposing, to be invested in the population in the area that you're looking to serve, and walk us through that, help us understand that, and don't assume that we are automatically making decisions about who will and will not get funded. And that includes people who are new to the game, or those who've been in the game for a long time, or those who are like, well, I'm afraid, of applying because, past experiences with the county or with anyone on staff. No, just bring yourself, keep it real, and and trust the process. I know that's a huge ask, because we're talking about a government institution, but we're being very intentional about bringing people on board, part of this review process, who are reflective of the community, and we're asking you to trust that process, and that includes geography. And in the area of focus, some people felt like, well, we're not focused on the criminal legal system. Well, that's fine. This is not solely focused on the criminal legal system. It doesn't mean that people who are can't apply it. It means that those who aren't can't apply it. What it means is that help us understand how it is that the work that you're doing is tied to the scope of work for this particular RFP. So I will stop there. I know it's a lot of preaching, but I share those things because it's so easy for us to oftentimes fill in areas of where information may be absent with a lot of assumptions and insecurities, and we want to caution against that. And also, folks, read the RFP, read your application. Some people literally just handed this off to a subcontracted grant writer who then turned it in for them, and they didn't even really understand what it is that they applied for. One grant writer, as a matter of fact, got the name of the organization wrong when they were applying on the behalf of that organization. So there is something incredibly important about taking the time to go through the application, go through your proposal, and to do that in co-creation with the community that you're talking about serving. If you're coming up with all these ideas, but you haven't met with any of the people in your community, that's going to tell us what kind of relationship you have with the community. So take the time to really go through this and go through it with your people. And then we look forward to reviewing them, because we truly do know and believe that folks are doing some amazing things in the community. And I will stop there. I said that before and I'll say it now. And I will hand it off to Joanna, who from Contracts and Procurement team, to just share a little bit about Zoom grants.
Thank you for that, Zach. I'm going to take everybody on a tour of Zoom grants so you can see exactly what you're working with and how to use Zoom grants. So I'll be sharing my screen. And I've put the link in the chat for anybody who wants to go ahead and follow along. So if you click on the link, can you confirm that you can see Zoom grants? Awesome, yes. Thank you. So if you click on the link that I put in the chat, it'll take you here. And this is kind of hard to see, but you do have to be logged in to apply. So you can log in up here, or you can create a new Zoom Grants account if you don't have one. But you don't need to be logged in to see the application. So we'll walk through that right now. What you'll see are 2 layers of these blue tabs. The top layer is description of the program, and then the second layer we'll get to is the actual application. So this first tab here is a description of the program. So if you scroll down, you can see sort of an overview with the background. You can also hide these if you don't want to look at them as you're working. You can just click right on the tab to hide it. This next tab here is who can apply. So it's the eligibility criteria. So hiding that. The next one is how to request help on your proposal. And this is just what Zach was talking about with the technical assistance. So there's some information here on technical assistance. And this is a crucial tab. As Zach just said, we really strongly encourage you to read the full RFP, which is this document right here. So if you click on that, you'll open it and you'll be able to see the full document. The library tab is also going to be an important one to look at because we'll post any updates to the RFP here. You can see we already have an update. We'll be posting amendments if anything changes to the RFP, and we'll also be posting amendments with questions and answers. So anytime someone asks a question around the RFP, we make a note of that question and we answer it and then upload it here so that everyone has the same access to the same information. So you can see what everyone else has asked as well. So you'll see numbered amendments as we go and answer more questions. And so please do click on that to see if there's anything else besides questions here. And because we do anticipate a lot of questions coming in throughout the process, we're going to have a list here that will continue to update. So where you see Q&A, complete list, that will be the most updated list of every single question that's been asked. So this document here, the SSPP RFP, is going to be your core document to look at, and please continue to open it, refer back to it as you're answering questions. And then you'll probably want to be clicking on this Q&A complete list. So we encourage you to continually come back to this library tab whenever you log in, just to see if there's any updates. But as I post new amendments, or we will be sending out emails to anybody who started an application. So if you started an application in Zoom Grants, you will get an email whenever we post an amendment. This tab here, Contact Admin, you click on that and it just opens up an email so you can reach out directly to the contract monitor, which is Mahogany. So if you click on this, you'll be able to send an email with any questions you're having or any difficulties with Zoom Grants. So this is the first top layer of blue tabs here. And the second one here is the actual application. So all of these tabs are what you'll actually be filling in. And we put in parentheses here whether each section is scored or unscored. So there's clarity on what you'll actually be graded on. So this first tab, summary questions, is just to get an idea of who you are, who the contact is, and we have a couple questions here that we are required to ask you. So if you can please respond to these 2 questions as well. This is another set of questions, also unscored. So please go through here and explain a little bit about your organization, your mission, the year you were founded, and then some questions about the communities that you serve. So Zoom Grants is a temperamental system. So a couple tips about working with Zoom Grants. First is that there's no save button. So as you're entering your information, if you're typing it in, you'll type it directly into this text box here. And the way to save is just click outside the text box. If you click literally anywhere else, it'll start saving. And you'll see show up right here in the center of the screen, the word saving will show up. It'll flash for a few seconds. Hopefully it'll go away. If it doesn't and it gets stuck on saving, there's really nothing to do but hit refresh and hope it's saved. So what a lot of people like to do to avoid that glitch is to type up their responses in a different document and then paste them in here. So the other issue to note with that is that Zoom Grants does not like formatting. So if you have any formatting when you paste in here, it may not accept it. So just make sure you don't have any bold or any other kind of formatting when you're pasting it in there. And if you're struggling with this, you can either, if Zoom Grants is not playing nice, you can either reach out to Zoom Grants at questions@zoomgrants.com, or you can go right back up here to the Contact Admin tab and ask for help. And we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So that's this tab. The next tab, these are all the scored questions. So these are the proposal questions where we want to get in depth about your program and the services you plan to offer. So you'll go through all here and answer all these questions. The budget is this tab right here, and we have lengthy instructions here so that it's clear, everybody sees it. If you're sick of looking at the instructions, you can click hide and tuck those away so that you can just fill in the budget. So follow those instructions to fill in these budget tables here. And then the salary expenses here, same thing with the instructions, you can show or hide these. So there was a question in the chat about how to upload other documents. We have this documents tab here, and we flag here whether it's a required document that we're requesting or optional. So if it says required, in order for a complete application, we do request that you upload this document. So you would do for testimonials, you'll just click on this upload button here, and that'll prompt you to submit your document. So if you want to submit any other documents, any kind of pictures or stories, narratives, anything else you want to upload, it'll be general uploads here. So you'll go to general uploads, click this upload button, and that'll prompt you, which I can't do right now because I'm not logged in. So that's a quick walkthrough of Zoom Grants. Do we have any questions before moving on? Oh, can we upload videos? That's a good question. It depends on the size. One thing I would suggest is converting it to a YouTube video, just in case you're struggling to upload it. Sometimes it'll just get stuck on uploading and it won't go all the way through. So if it's too big and Zoom Grants isn't accepting it, then if you can convert it to a YouTube video and then put the link somewhere in your application, then we can view it there. I don't know if the rest of the SSPP team has any thoughts on this. Okay, and another thing you can do as another option is you can email your video in and just say, this is a part of my application, please make sure it's included. So if you email us material, we can still accept it. And this is an important final point I want to make with the temperamentalness of Zoom grants is that please don't wait till the last minute to submit. It senses your anxiety and it may not work well for you. And this has happened to me too, just setting it up if I've waited to the last minute. So we do encourage you to be entering information as you go and try to submit your final application earlier just in case there are any issues. But if you do get up against the deadline and it's still not working for you, please just email it to us. We'll accept it in any form. But we do need to receive it because we may not be able to accept late applications. So it's better to just email in an imperfect application than to get it perfectly into Zoom grants and have it be late. So with that, any other questions before I turn it back over? There's a question about vaccines I can probably respond to. If your staff who are not serving in-person clients, if they're not serving anybody in person, they don't have to be vaccinated. And just to clarify, I'm glad you brought that up. This question here about the vaccine, all we're asking is for you to just check the box and say that you've read this and understand it. So at this stage, there's no vaccine requirements at this stage. Okay. All right.
Yeah, one more. I see one new message that popped in. Can we submit multiple option documents, testimonials from Amir?
You should be able to. So you should be able to click upload here for multiple documents. If that's not working for you, go back to a contact admin, send an email to us, and we'll try to help provide any technical assistance to make sure you can do that. All right, I'll pass it back over to the team.
Let me see. Can we submit? Thank you. Joanna, thank you so much. For those who do not know, actually, none of you know the work that went behind here. Mahogany and I kept going back and forth, emailing Joanna, just back and forth as she reached out to some of the Zoom folks to make it look as smooth as it looks right now for you guys to operate. So Joanna, thank you so much for all the hours that you've put in. It looks great and it's flowing smooth. All the blood, sweat, and tears to get in 10 questions, not 20. I remember those things we had to shave down. So thank you, Joanna. I appreciate you. Okay, we are on the question slides. Guys, time is looking excellent. It's 6:24. This was supposed to go to 7. We might not need all that time, but we have questions right now. So actually, I'm going to tackle a few in here, and I'll be leaning on Zach, Joanna, Mahogany, Lisa, in case we need them to come. So if you have any Zoom grants, please pop off, but then, get off of mute and then speak. But then right now, I'm going to go back to Lavelle's question and then answer that. It's at 6 o'clock. So what's the max request amount an applicant can ask for? Let me see. So we have the slide. If you guys remember the funding specifics, I touched on approximate. So max, let me not go around the bush. The max is up to 400,000 for each. That's specifically for the year 2023 and 2024. Why? Because 2022, as I said, is approximately 1 million. Thank you. Thank you for doing that, Lisa. So 2022 has approximately 1 million budgeted because of the 6 months that we have left for that. So in 2022, the maximum is going to be up to 125,000 just for 2022 per org, and then up to 400,000 for each following 2023 and 2024. And if I need to clarify that further, please let me know and I will. Let me move on to the next question. Let me see. Oh wait, screen keeps jumping. I'm going to the chats. Hold on one second. Let me see. Are interviews used to determine, this is Audrey, interviews used to determine which orgs to fund after the review panel goes through the scoring rubric. Now, for those who know Zach on here, Zach did 1.0, and this is my first time we're releasing an RFP with Mahogany. strong team because we have strong backup. So I'm going to pass this on to Zach to give us that context from the 1.0. Our interviews used to determine which orgs to fund after the review panel goes through the scoring rubric.
Yeah, Lavelle, it's 400,000 each year. And with regards to the interviews, yeah, so the process that we are currently planned to implement is would have the adults review the applications, score them, try to take the initial bulk, narrow it down to a manageable size for our young people to then review them, and then they would narrow it down a little bit more, and we would have a remaining number of applicants that we can interview, and we try to get it down to a number that's realistic for being able to interview that many people, and partly based off of how much the requests are. I know that sounds a little bit confusing, but if our top scoring folks are not asking for a whole lot, that actually expands the number of folks that can be awarded. So let's say not everybody is asking for the cap amount of 400,000, because right now, if everybody were to, if all of the top scored, selected people who make it to the semifinals or whatever, who are making it to the second bracket or whatever you want to call it in sports, if they make it and all of them are asking for the cap amount, then we estimated that it would be approximately 8 awardees. So that's we know that that's like the minimum number of folks who will be awarded. Thanks, Lavelle. But if we end up, for instance, with the top selected folks end up being more like, asking more in the 300,000 or something like that, then we're potentially going to have more people. We're going to have to figure out a way to narrow it down. But yes, that was a very long response to a very short question, but essentially we do plan on utilizing interviews as the final portion of the selection process.
Thank you, Zach. Not only was it a long answer, but it also touched on Audrey's answer. So you did it without even, so you touched on the part of how many grants will be given. Audrey, that all depends, as you heard Zach. If the top contestants ask for the max, fewer people get the grant. We're looking at 8 to 10. If the top contestants ask for like between 1 to 2, or I don't know, then we get more people in the bucket. And I hope that makes sense. Thanks, Zach. Let me see. And then do you know what the average funding amount would be? So once again, we lean on you guys to throw in what your agency wants to request for. We don't tell you guys you could ask for the max. You could say, David will be like, hey, I want 400, Ken. And David is looking, yeah, David, this is participatory. I pick folks in the crowd. That's because your camera's on. But anyway, so if David asked for 400, we look, we review, and then if the reviewers see that that's the 400, that's what happens. But we don't get to tell you what you request based on the need for your agency. Audrey, I hope that's helpful. Could do a virtual thumbs up or just verbally, if you're good with the question, for us to move on.
I would also,
Thank you.
I would also caution folks, state the amount that you believe is reasonable for the work that you're trying to do. Don't try to undersell the work, because that's not going to reflect well in your application. You say, oh yeah, we're going to do all these amazing things and all we need is 50,000. Well, now you're telling me that you don't plan on providing equitable income for your staff, and that's a huge concern for us. So we are, once again, we're asking folks to keep it real. This is not trying to somehow find a way to this is not a survival application. You feel me? This is you sharing with us something that you are about, something that you're committed to, something that you are trying to do in your community. And it's just as much an opportunity for us as it is for you. So don't undersell yourself. Keep it real, and be straight up. Obviously, can't exceed the cap amount, but yeah. And then somebody had asked in the previous conversation, well, what if we're just looking to not really expand anything? or increase anything. For instance, they barely have any money to do what they're doing now, and really they're just trying to add more money to be able to sufficiently provide their staff with a livable wage, and and do some other things. What I would say is that in that instance, you are enhancing your program, because you're enhancing the well-being for your staff, and making sure that all of the resources that your team needs in order to be able to be successful in the work, and to do it sustainably, so that you don't have a high turnover rate. Because a lot of folks feel like they have to pay their staff at low income, a low income, in order to be able to get any sort of program. And I know that some foundations, some institutions promote and perpetuate that kind of issue. But in this instance, I hope that those who have been partnering with us long enough know that we are sincere when we say we want you to be paying your staff a livable wage.
Thanks, Zach. Let me try to get through the rest of these. If our service partners are contractors and fully vaccinated, does that mean all our staff who will not serve in person are required to present vaccination status? Now, that's an excellent question. Zach.
I think that's a Joanna question, in my opinion.
CNP, Joanna is still here. Yeah, Joanna, you want to help us with this one?
I'm still
Joanna.
here. I can help. Yeah, no, not all your staff have to be vaccinated. If you're only the staff that are working in person. So, and you don't need to have your vaccination. You will have to submit a vaccination attestation at the contracting stage, but you don't have to have that all together right now. Does that answer the question?
I saw a thumbs up and a head nod. Thank you, Joanna. And the Amir, correct me if I'm wrong, was this one answered by Joanna, or can we submit multiple option document testimonials? Was that answered or no? Yes, it was. I see a nod. Thank you. And then 400K for both years each. Yes, that was also answered. Moving on, it sounds like 400K. Yes, it does sound like 400K. Thank you so much, Zach. I knew you were a ball player. I'm going down these questions. I would also ask if LLCs can apply if they're fiscally sponsored by a 501c3. From what I heard from Zach's presentation, you could apply in that situation. Zach, did you want to touch on that? Or is that just simply?
I'm not as familiar with LLCs. Joanna, do you?
As far as King County is concerned, not a problem at all.
Okay.
That would be kind of, if you wanted to make it a problem, you'd have to make it a problem, but I won't.
Oh, I don't want to.
Lavelle, man, you're giving me these calculus questions, man. Now you're taking me cool.
Hey, listen, Joanna said it all right there. I'm not going to make it a problem at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some programs want to have more stringent limits, and they're welcome to, but it sounds like that's not an issue here.
Cool.
No, that's not what I'm about. But
cool,
yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Joanna. So Lavelle, you heard that one. Amir, in BSK 1.0, this EACS successfully proposed our girls mentorship program. Would our boys mentorship program be a good fit for 2.0?
Can I respond to that one?
Please.
So Amir, one of the things that we try to be very careful about, particularly when we're going through a procurement process, is making these statements as to whether something will or will not be a good fit. It's really more of a question: does it meet the eligibility requirements? Because if we make a statement, oh yeah, it'd be a good fit, and then you turn right around and don't get it, then whose door are you going to be knocking on? Mine, right? So we try to be very careful about that and just simply say, does it meet the eligibility requirements? Then yes, you can apply. We encourage you to apply, even if you don't think it's a good fit. We the bottom line is that is it eligible?
Thank you, Zach. Lavelle here again. We have, how many youth are you looking for orgs to serve? Now, Zach, from when you and I were going through this, I don't think we put a specific cap on this at all. So Zach and I read through it a few times. There's no cap. So Lavelle, 200, 300,000, go for it. Funding is also a thing with that, So I think that's something that you guys, also what outcomes, deliverables are you looking?
Can I add some real quick to that?
Please.
About the numbers. something that I want to encourage folks to take consideration is what is the ratio. I think it's more so about, I was visiting with an organization yesterday. I was sitting with sharing space with them and the youth, and one of the things that I talked about with the leadership was that it's about quality over quantity. So some people feel like they have to have big numbers in order to get funded. It's really more about what do you feel is a quality number of young people to be working with the amount that you're being funded or you're requesting. So if you're asking for 400,000, but you're only working with 5 young people, then you really need to do some explaining as to why only 5 young people. So I hope that makes sense. It's about that kind of like that ratio. Yeah. So thank you for letting me touch on that.
Do we have any other questions here, folks? Any other questions? Lavelle.
Did
Yeah, I see the one about outcomes and deliverables.
I think, Ken, can you speak about the age range that we're serving, please?
Age range is 12 through 24. That's actually, I think you saw the page when Joanna was going through the Zoom grants. It says it up on there. 12 through 24 is the age range. And then Providence, let me know if you wanted me to just address that on this forum or in the chat. Perfect. Yes, address. Okay. Let me see. Providence question. Where is that? So Zach, if you could help with this one, any exceptions for consortiums, or do they fall all in the same amount?
I'm not sure what that meaning like exceptions is in terms of getting more funding, or
Mr. Providence, you wanna speak? I think.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, well, when Ken and I had the discussion, I think we did not do that this time around. I know that was something that we did in the past, where for folks, and that was to promote partnering. There was a few things that we learned from that experience. I will say that I learned, and this time around, we decided not to go that route. We still encourage people to partner, but there isn't any additional funding for those who are looking to do partnerships.
And then to Amina Abdallah, we missed a session. Will there be another? So as Lisa mentioned, we'll be sending out the recording once it's edited. Mahogany has the same listserv that invited you is going to be the one we're going to put the recording on, and then also a PDF version of the what's this thing called, the PowerPoint. So that's what we're going to be sending out, and so do not feel like you're going to be missing. In fact, you guys are privileged enough to have the video, because we had some technical difficulties on Tuesday and we're not able to have video recording. So this is going to go out to everyone video wise. So Amina, I hope that's helpful. Just give us a thumbs up, the little virtual thumbs up. And then if you have any other questions, let me know. I'll move on to, oh, perfect, Amina. Amir, amount requested, individual application, total amount requested, maximum amount.
That was just in
I'm
reference
sorry.
to the previous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, he was, so Amir, a part of East African Community Services, we had the privilege of partnering with him in the past. And so Amir's, sorry, Amir, I'm speaking for you, but Brown man is smart. He is smart, and he already had the information pulled up, so he's on top of it. But that was what we
He's bringing data. Yeah.
with regards to what we had offered in the previous RFP, that was the arrangement, what Amir put in the chat. This time around, we chose not to do that. Lavelle, you had a question around outcomes deliverables we're looking for. Ken, do you want to be the one to respond to that, or you want me to respond to that?
Where is that? Go ahead. Oh yeah, that's right after Amir's. You can go ahead.
Okay. It's kind of like with the recommended amounts to be applying for in terms of funding. It really depends on what it is that you're doing. So everybody's program and approach is different. So we want to be very careful about prescribing. What is important is for you to articulate with us and to be willing to walk through with our evaluation team. So, Leah, person who presented earlier, to be able to walk through like what exactly it is that you are delivering, and to be able to articulate that, and to be willing to work with us to come up with some milestones, like to indicate that progress is being made. And then also help us to identify metrics around how to measure progress. And now everybody has a different sort of understanding around evaluation. So I'm not going to try to get into evaluation, but I do think it's important for your organization or for your application to be able to clearly articulate what exactly it is that you want for the outcome from this. What is it that you're hoping to deliver on? And to not feel like it has to be this, again, institutional language that you're generally used to presenting in other applications. But it is something that when you look back on it, and if it was your kid, you're saying, this is something that we accomplished with my kid, like, and to be able to articulate that to us so that we are on the same page as you. It's not about trying to get you on the same page as us around what we are expecting with regards to that. It's about getting on the same page with you and then walking alongside you, because remember, this is a learning opportunity for us, and it's a privilege for us to be partnering with you.
Thank you, Zach. That's really well said. And Lavelle, I'm gonna do a little extra since I'm giving you bonus because you've asked a lot of questions, so which keep them coming. Lisa, could you please go to the slide that starts with data and evaluation, and then go to the second one after the opening one? Do we have the?
Working on it.
Oh, no worries. Thank you, Lisa.
Amir, you presented something. Can you explain? You were talking about the cap.
Oh, so I'm looking at the link that, yeah, and I pulled that data that kept it was on the actual RFP. So if
so
that
you're seeing that,
yeah,
400 that the 640,000 is what we have for the
640. Yeah, so at the very top it says program name and amount, maximum amount 640,000, then collective application amount 815,000. So yes, it's
in the Zoom
I'm
grants.
sorry. Correct.
Is that an example? Or is that the actual? You're saying that's the actual?
Yeah, it says program name, then amount requested, and then it says that the maximum amount of 640,000 for, I guess, the individual organization, and 815,000 for the collective application. That is on the actual form at the very top.
Because when I saw the same thing you're talking about when Joanna was presenting, and for some reason I didn't know if that was an example they're giving, but if that, we will touch on that. Amir, thanks for pointing that out, and we will.
Yeah, we'll fix that.
Correct that, like, definitely. The data, the next data evaluate.
Because fortunately, go with the RFP.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. Is the RFP is what was been reviewed ad nauseum. So
like 12.
Yep.
Thank you. So I'm not Amir, but Lavelle. I didn't catch that. Could you try? Siri is listening in. So using data, so 1 through 4, identify your story, like what data, information, finding data, like this is what you're going to have this slideshow for yourself. I'm just briefly going through it of what's helpful for you to understand what we're kind of going through, and then go to the slide 15, please. Then right here, when you're submitting data, this is another point that will be summary of program changes, successes, challenges, the narrative, and keep it to your narrative. Like, what is your narrative? So I hope that's helpful. Thank you so much, Lisa. Then we have, I have to take off. No, that's okay. If a fiscal sponsor is applying for BSK and represents, well, changed up on me. If a fiscal sponsor is applying for BSK and represents another org as a fiscal sponsor, will either proposal be disqualified? Now this one is Zach, what thoughts? What
Yeah,
thoughts? Did you guys have this come up in 1.0?
I think we did. And I'm trying to remember if I think Lisa wasn't on at that point for this part of the process, but if I remember correctly, there was some folks where they had submitted two separate applications with two different partners. It was kind of interesting. And no, we're not going to, take both of them and throw them out. So if you don't get selected for one, you may still get selected for the other. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Lavelle, was that helpful?
If you don't mind, I just want to kind of clarify that. So what I'm asking is if, for example, if just for example, say the YMCA was applying for a grant and then they had a fiscal, or they were the fiscal sponsor for another organization, and they that organization applied with the YMCA being a fiscal sponsor, would the YMCA then be disqualified from either one, considering it looks as though they're applying for two?
No, I mean, I feel like that's different. The important thing is if you're articulating two very different scopes of work.
Gotcha.
Yeah, if you're, listing something and it looks exactly like the other application, then I think there'd have to be a discussion around like what's going on here. But if there, as a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, there was an organization that had two applications for two different scopes of work that they applied for. So the moral of the story is, or I just say the moral of the story, but the point I'm making is that it's possible to submit multiple applications when you're articulating two very different types of programming.
Yeah.
Appreciate y'all bearing with me in all these 210 questions.
If you hadn't been asked those questions, there might be a lot of awkward silence.
And if you saw the email, it said 250 was the max. So you still have 40 more to go.
Say that. That's what I'm talking about. I knew I was in the right place. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? And also just a reminder, folks, we will be sending you the slideshow, and we'll also be sending you the PowerPoint and also the video to this. So
we got nothing from Black Star Line. I thought Black Star Line was going to throw me some kind of question. Mike, Aaron, nothing?
No, Shay, Jamie.
No, you're real clear. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Yes, thank you guys for this.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that this is appealing to folks. I hope that folks are feeling excited about this.
Mahogany yes, thank you, Mahogany. We will not be sending it out. We'll be uploading it. And since all of you have the link to Zoom grants that was put in here earlier, please go look. Yeah, so once an RFP launches, there's all these regulations and good things we have to follow. So this, the video for tonight, the PDF, PowerPoint for tonight will all be in Zoom grants, which you all, yes, Amina, we will post that link again. No problemo. I won't even charge you extra for that.
I do want to give a little shout out. I don't know if Mai sees it this way, but she, along with the rest of Black Star Line, they actually played a key influence in this RFP coming about. So I want to give some credit and some shout out to them for the way that Black Star Line has really done a lot of leadership development in the community for folks like myself. So, and just asking these sort of critical questions. And I think it's important for us to continue to be looking at ways in which we can be inspired by one another as we do this work. So, and, since we're recording, I'm gonna just put it here. It's just a really big thank you to all of the folks who make up Stopping the School to Prison Pipeline. This team is amazing. I love working with them, and I really hope that if folks here get the opportunity to partner with him, that they have equally, if not better, experience working with this team. This really is a good group of folks. So
Thank you, Zach. I hope I'm saying this right. Is it Marjon? Marjon? Marjon. Did it said you raised your hand? Am I right? Or am I seeing my own things?
I did. I just
Okay.
want to say thank you all back. And we recognize that just because we were involved in those inquiries and questions, what have you, that it's still a very competitive experience. So we just want to put that out there publicly, that we recognize that and recognize the work that you all are doing. So thank you all.
Thank you, Marjan. And yes, you guys, Zach's thanking us. You see, Lisa says, Zach, you're amazing. I agree with that. I've known Zach for a few years, 12 or something. And when he was doing 1.0, he did not have Mahogany, he did not have Lisa, he did not have Ken, he did have Reginald, but they really had to start from scratch. And Zach it's been very helpful to just have a foundation that's already been set. So Zach, big ups to you.
Yeah, shout out to Reginald B. Cole, who was a big part of the first iteration of Stop the School to Prison pipeline. And I do want to say this with regards to whatever flaws are in this process, that is not the result of folks like Black Star Line. They were just influences and like, hey, what are you doing for our babies, you know? And so I take full responsibility for a lot of the shortcomings for how some of this is structured, because I realize when there is a competitive process that can have some counterproductive impacts, and we're trying to work through that as well. But what I do want to say is that a lot of y'all have been doing some amazing work in the community, and it's really the purpose. What's up, Tupac? It's really the purpose of us to be listening and to continue to be learning and receiving that critical feedback, so that we can be better stewards in these roles that we have. So and I do want to say this, folks, that if you decide not to apply for this, or if you don't get it, I mean, I hope that you do, but if you, let's say you don't, talk to us. Tell us a little bit about what that experience was like for you. Share with us critical feedback so that we can continually be held accountable. And as Abigail Alcohawk calls it, you know, called into good practice by a community, because ultimately we're held accountable to the community. So that's something that I want to continue to highlight.
Well, cool. Now, do you guys see the chat, or did it just disappear on me? Do you guys see the chat still in there? Oh, it's still in there. Well, I don't have it. But if there's any more questions in there, please let me know. If there's none, do you guys see questions in there? Thumbs up, yes, there's a question, or thumbs up?
I have one question, if that's all right.
It's definitely all right.
All right. I thought you were going to close. That's why I didn't type it just yet. But there have in the past with BSK been organizations that were 508. Is this only for 501c3? Because I know some have been funded that were 508. Okay, I see you nodding no. So, all right.
I don't know what a 508 is, so I'm not even going to front like I know what that's.
Okay.
The reason why I say that is because I asked, that question came up to one of our CNP folks, and they said that they are welcome to apply. And that was Johanna. And Johanna would answer it better than myself or Zach. But then from what I heard, they're good to go.
Okay.
It did come
Perfect.
up. So
thank you.
I could at least give you guys 5 minutes early if you guys do not mind. I know you guys want to stay with me till 7, but you don't have to do that. So thank you so much for giving us your evening. The team just going to stay on for like a minute, and then we'll be good to go. Thank you all. Providence, I will catch you in the next meeting for the opening song. So you're good to go now, brother. But thank you, every one of you. I know you did.
Bye.
Bye.
See you guys. Bye to everyone. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Thank you. Good night to all.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, all.
Don't forget to stop recording.
Oh, that's true. Amir, I appreciate all your questions. Aaron, thank you. Lavelle, you guys were awesome.